Good evening, everyone. How's everybody feeling now? Energized? Thumbs up? Down? What's your energy level after seeing SpiderMan? How many of you know who's SpiderMan? Everybody? Why did I use SpiderMan here? Any thoughts? The reason I used SpiderMan was simple. He's agile, he's dynamic, and he understands everybody's needs, and he tries to serve everyone. So he also works from the outside. So my topic is about Agile BDD, behavior-driven development. So let's go through the next one. So this is about me, just a bit of a background. I've traveled about 15 hours to reach Nepal. It took me a long journey. I am a Scrum at Scale trainer and also an Agile Coach. Been working in the UK for the last 15 years. And I frequently visit Bangalore, that's my hometown. And also, I've been excited to be in Nepal. It's such a beautiful place. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to talk about BDD and go through a couple of requirements understanding and also try and understand what's the need for BDD in the agile environment. And let's look at some of the misconceptions and probably a quick overview of Cucumber and its features. So any thoughts about BDD? Anybody knows? Anybody's using that? So BDD was defined by Dan North. So he is the one who actually started building this, and it's called behavior-driven development. And as the name suggests, it's the behavior that actually drives the development. So if you look at the definition, I've actually pulled out my topic from that definition. It says a second generation outside in, and then towards the end it talks about agile. So it's all about understanding your business requirements, understanding what your stakeholders require, and working on that. So I want to give you a quick illustration of how we actually work. 80% of us, we want to deliver something, we want to deliver value, but we fail. How many of you actually satisfy all your customers' requirements? Everyone? No? 100%? So how many of you actually deliver on time? Great, we've got 1, 2, good, 3. So I just want to explain to you about what usually happens in an ideal environment. You have two stakeholders who are very excited about building a mobile app, and they have an idea, they have a vision, they go about explaining that vision to the business. And the business has a lot of hierarchy, they have a lot of teams, they get the idea, they understand, they try to understand, I'm not saying they understand, they try to understand, they get the information, they pass it on to the other teams, and then it goes on to the business, it goes on to the lower layer, and then finally it reaches the technical team. And then what happens? You're excited, the technical team is excited, they build the product, they try and iterate, they try and use Agile, they use Scrum, everything, but at the end of the day in the review, it's not what the customer wanted actually. It's all been sequential. There's been a low quality of communication, there's been less collaboration, there's been a sequential model. So what's actually missing and what do we need? And what went wrong? It's the lack of high quality communication. It's the lack of collaboration and lack of understanding. And how do we achieve this understanding? Only by using a technique. You could use any technique, but what I'm trying to propose here is behavior-driven development. So you could achieve all the three using that. So now, let's understand why BDD. So in the previous slide, we saw a lot of misunderstanding happening there, a lot of low quality communication. And where does BDD fit in? It tries to help you understand what your client, what they need, what is their necessity, what is their requirements. It's a communication protocol. Has anyone looked at this? Has anybody heard about Liz's quote? So in that quote, I've highlighted a few things. It's about having conversations, capturing conversations, and automating conversations. Now, everybody knows that BDD is used mainly in test area. It's purely, if I ask anybody, have you heard of BDD? Do you think about, what's your view about it? Is it the test area, or do you think about upfront? It's all about test. So you think it's only a testing. But what we're trying to say is, are we actually doing or having this upfront conversation? Conversations. Are we actually capturing those conversations and then automating them? What's the conversation? Anyone? It's talking to your clients, understanding those requirements, understanding what they actually need as a team, as a group, with specialized entities, with different areas of expertise. So we've got the conversations, we've got everything. So just remember that having a conversation is very important. Then capturing it. Any idea about this vegetable? What's that? And what's next to it? It's also a family of cucumber. It's gherkin. So you know the cucumber is healthy. It's organic. Yeah. It is easy to get. It's healthy to eat. You feel it's simple as well. So what is the benefits of this? For you to communicate, you need to use simple language, simple terms to your business. And I've actually coined this terminology called GWT motorway. We use motorways in the UK. Just to remember given, when, and then. So I've used GWT. You can call it as GWT National Highway here in the Nepal or in India. So what is given? It's given some context when some action takes place, and then the outcome. For me, to come here, given I'm in Nepal talking about this, I have to get here, right? And then I have to get on the stage to talk about it. I'm defining a scenario here. I need to come here, I need to do some action to get there. So this is one way of actually communicating and talking to, in terms of business terms. You want to make it simple and easy. So we went through Cucumber. It acts as a bridge between the technical and the non-technical team. Now, we spoke about the first thing, communication. So is communication important, or is it the last thing you're going to do? It's important, right? How do you feel when you communicate? You feel that connection, right? You feel connected. Communication, is that important? It's essential, right? If you don't talk, if you go to a meeting, or if you're going to meet the business analyst, if you're going to meet your customers, are you going to stay silent? We all are customers. You go to a shop, you're going to ask somebody for what you require, what you need, or you're going to seek help. So we have to explain our requirements. So what we need. So it bridges it's nothing but it creates a bridge between both of you. The next thing is, using Cucumber, it expresses behavior. Because if it actually expresses behavior in a common language. You can write in about 40 different languages, and it can understand. When I say languages, not the technical language, basic English or any other language is fine. And it's going to interpret what you need. And it becomes a living documentation. So when I say living documentation, I'm not asking you to write pages of books or write pages of docs in Word or any other. So your spec, whatever you're building, is a living documentation. It is more than just test. It's not just test, it's about specification. All your acceptance criteria, they are your requirements. They are your heart of your feature. And what happens within this? Your documentation could go wrong. Two things can happen. It could pass or fail. Why would it fail? One, because your test has failed because something has been introduced. And you can spot it from here. And the other thing could be that you have actually written some new requirements and you haven't documented it. And the last thing I want to explain is, it builds trust. Do you trust your team members? Do you trust your developers and testers? And trust plays a very key thing. Without trust, it's very difficult to actually, have that high energy in the team, and it's very difficult to work within the team. So what happens? Because all the information is in a single place. It's one source of truth for you. It's one source of reference. You don't have to look at other documents. You don't have to go to Confluence. You don't have to go to any of the shared resources. Just have everything in one place. It's a spec that everybody can refer. Developers, testers, business analysts, your business, everybody can refer. How many developers do we have here? Wow. And how many testers we have here? Wow. Okay, good. So I've been a developer, I've been a tester, I've been a Scrum Master. I know the pain of each area, and I know the pain of what a tester goes through in Waterfall, in Agile, in Scrum, and everything. So I understand what happens when you actually implement something like this. So I want to give you a quick overview of the entire flow. If you're using Scrum, or if you're using any Agile process. So what do? We try and work on a story. Now, what's a user story? Anybody? Anyone? It's your feature. Yeah. What's it? Yeah. Somebody told me requirement. Yep. Is the user story a requirement, or is your acceptance criteria a requirement? Yes. So user story is only a reference. It's a card that references everything. The acceptance criteria is the key. Now, if I'm standing on the stage, I need certain things. I need this to work. I need the mic to work. That's my acceptance criteria. Yeah? And how simple the story has to be. Anybody heard of this invest model? Good. So let me just briefly tell you what's the abbreviation. So when you actually discuss a story with your clients, you try and have conversations. You break the story down. Yeah. You start with one story, and then you start breaking them down into multiple stories, and that's when your conversation is going in the right direction. You then start writing different acceptance criteria. And if you follow the invest model, you want the stories to be independent, negotiable, it's valuable, you can estimate it, it's small, and it's also testable. You can't have a complex or a compound user story and then say it's testable. You're going to take ages to finish that story. Have you heard of people doing 20-point story for like 4 or 5 sprints? Yeah? And that's about 3 weeks of development and then 1 week of testing at the end. It's common. I know everybody would have faced this problem. Yeah, it's a reality. So what's essential when you have these user stories and acceptance criteria? There's a bridge here. Can you see the business and those techie team? There's a bridge. They actually built the bridge. In the first scenario, we saw that it was missing. They were all working on their own. And there's something called as 3 C's. It's your cards, it's the conversation, and the confirmation. The confirmation is your acceptance criteria. So what happens with those confirmation? If you sign off your acceptance criteria, your story is done, right? If it's not working, then it's not done, right? Agree? But you also come up with a definition of done at this level. This becomes a criteria for you to build a definition of done within your area, within your team, within the model of working. Only with conversations, only with these kind of cards. And then what happens? And then you start writing your test. Yeah? But these tests, the reference point for you should have been your acceptance criteria. And these tests will actually fail at the start. Your developers and testers should work hand in hand. I'll go in detail about that later. I'll talk about collaboration. And then you try and refactor your test, you make it pass, and then the acceptance criteria is done. And at this stage, you also try and hook up on Jenkins, your Git, your Hub, all the technical aspects and all the environmental areas. So it is quite essential for you to have this kind of a setup in an environment, like if you're using Agile. Oops. I saw this similar quote in the previous talk. Yeah. If you want to go fast, you can go alone. But what do we want to do here? We work as a team, yeah? Yeah, and we want to go far. We want to reach the top. We want to reach somewhere. So think about it. Take your time. Right. The next thing I want to focus on is a bit of a misunderstanding about what everybody think about BDD. So most of them think that it's a test automation tool, and they forget about the BDD concept. So I want to focus on 3 areas. The first is the client. He doesn't care about testing. Fair enough. Why should your client care about testing? What the client would care is about the value, what you're actually building, and how fast you can build. So he's not going to care about testing. And let's stop talking about testing. It's about specification. It's about the upfront conversation we're having. And let's step away from the test-centric perspective and start focusing on the specification perspective. So forget about testing at this stage. BDD is not a test automation tool. Yes, you can use it as an entity. You can use it at a layer, but you have to start from your specification. The second thing is the client doesn't want to write the specification. That's fine. Why do you want your client to write the specification? He's not going to know anything about your technical aspects, about the domain, and he's not going to understand about the edge cases. So what does he need? He needs to understand. What does he need? He needs to converse. There should be a conversation. There should be a communication between everybody. Your business analyst, your business, your testers, your developers, and all of them sit together, have a conversation, and build the specification. That's when you can derive all your acceptance criteria. The third one I want to talk is about the attitude of developers. I'm not offending any developers here, but what the developers feel is, you know what, I can write a test quickly and make it run. But is my business going to understand Ruby, Java, .NET tests? Yeah, he's going to go crazy. Will the end user understand? Will anybody else understand apart from the technical team? No, it's going to be very difficult. So we are, sorry, yeah, so it's not about code. It's about the communication and the collaboration. It's about writing it in a simple language, in simple English terms, so everybody understands. How many of you have faced the sprint Scrum fall? Within the sprint, you know what happens? Your sprint cards, your story cards are complete, you know? They go like this on the first day. On the 8th day, it goes to the testers, and then it slows down like this. Yeah, just like a waterfall. Do you agree? Everyone? Everyone's faced that? How do we avoid that? What happens when you have a story? What should you do? So in a typical environment, people look at, you look at a story, you do your sprint planning, and then the developer walks towards the north, and the tester walks towards the south. Yeah? You know what? You can update the Jira, I can look at it. You can update the cards, and I can look at it. There's no collaboration within the team. Yeah? What's happening? We talk about collaboration, we talk about communication, we talk about all the agile values, but we are not actually implementing that. And we complain about Scrum is not working, about Agile is not working, Kanban is not working. It's our mindset. How do we actually tackle this situation? You take a story, you discuss, the developers, testers work together from day one, take the acceptance criteria one, write, look at the acceptance criteria, let the dev start focusing on building the application, and the tester starts building the test. Both work hand in hand, work together, get that acceptance criteria one done, then go to your acceptance criteria two, and then the third one. So by day one, day two, day three, both the devs and the tests are complete. They are done with it. You don't have this mini waterfall. You don't have this sprint fall. You can't say that Agile is not working. Scrum is only for developers. Testers are struggling. If you work together, you can do it. Try and approach your developers. Testers, approach your developers. Talk to them. Have conversations. If there's any spikes, if there's any kind of environmental issues, raise another card. But don't work on something and say you're doing Agile and I'm Scrum, I follow a principle of automation. So if you are working on a card, work hand in hand. Day one you start, day two, day three you're done. Take the other card. Day one, day four, day five you're done. So by the end of your sprint, your devs and the testers will not have any backlog. You don't have to work weekends. You don't have to carry your cards to the next sprint. You can work hand in hand, collaborate, get things sorted. I just want to do a quick poll. I know everybody here would have used this. If you could, take your I know everybody's got a phone with a browser. If you can actually try and go to pollev.com/ it's a bit long, it's my name with a number, and we just want to see a quick poll of what results we get here. How many of you describe your Scrum, your Agile, as the best Agile team? We are pure Agile. We are living by the Agile values. And how many of you use mix of both waterfall and Scrum? And if you're purely waterfall, that's fine. That's better. And if it's not relevant to you, that's okay. I think the internet is a bit slow. Maybe just give it about 10 seconds. We can see the results. Look at that. That's 100%. Is it based on one vote? Wow. Are we done? Whoa, that's 50, 20, 14%, 13%. I want to see those hands coming up. I want to see that. The reality is we're using Scrum and Waterfall together, right? We're all agreeing to that. Whoa, okay, that's. Are we ready? Stop, should we stop? Can you raise your hands? If you're done? So what do we see here? What's the percentage of teams that's using Scrum and Waterfall? It's 85%? That's a lot, right? We're mixing both. What are the reasons for that? Is it because of the collaboration between the developers and the QAs? Is it because you don't understand your requirements from the business and you can't complete your cards? There's a lot of things. I want you guys to think about this as you finish this session, as you go back, think about it, how you can actually improve and what you could get out of this. So this is a quote from Michael Sohota and Audrey Sohota. So I've been with Michael for Cal 1 and Cal 2, and his quote says, "A new way of working requires a new way of being." So it's all time for us to actually think about it, change the way we're actually working. See what we can do better. We're all doing a good job, but how can we excel from that? How can we actually do a better job? How could we work with everybody as a team, collaborate? So we spoke about Cucumber, we spoke about features and everything. So this is an example of how you can actually write your feature. You've got a story there, a feature for example, let's take a Google search, and you can outline your scenario saying a simple Google search and then use the given when-then format. And in between that you can add an and, you can add a but, you can add a star, a wildcard. And that can then be transformed into whatever language you want, Ruby, or if you want to use Java, spec, and then automate it. So finally, we spoke about all the BDD communications and everything. Let's see the advantages. I mentioned about 40 different languages. So that's one of the biggest advantage. And then it actually improves your communication, the collaboration between the teams, and it's quite simple to use. It's not tough at all. And it's easily integratable to any environment. And the syntax that you use is a Gherkin style. So it's about given, when, and then. Yeah, so the final quote I want to talk about is, be the change that you want to see in the world. So if you want to do something, it's from you. If you say Scrum is not working, Agile is not working, that change has to be from you. It has to be from within. Your practices, your rituals, stand-up and everything are just practices. It's fine, you can do that. But if you want to be truly Agile, you want to live by the Agile values, the change has to be within. If you start the change, automatically everyone's going to adapt it. Be an example. And everybody sitting here is a leader. You don't have to wait for your organization leaders to support you, to help you. If you're using Agile in your environment, if you're using Scrum in your environment, try to better that and bring the change in you. So this is some of the references I've used. I recommend, if anyone's interested, to have a look at the book called The Cucumber Book, and it's written by Matt and Aslak. And you can learn all the fundamentals about BDD, about Cucumber, and it also illustrates some examples about Ruby, and they talk about spec as well, RSpec. That's a good reference point. And if you want your Scrum to be repaired, you know, when we have a problem with our car, what do? Do we throw it away? Do we say, car's not working? We take the car to the nearest center, get it sorted. Get your Scrum repaired. Have a look at Scrum Repair Guide. That's by Mike Coyne, and I highly recommend that. It talks about a lot of things. Talks about culture, talks about change, talks about collaboration, and how you can actually work within your Scrum environment. And if you want to go back to basics, you want to understand estimation, the Agile estimation and planning, that's a good reference. So yeah, these three references are good to start with. Thank you. We've got some time, yeah? Any questions? Anybody want to discuss something?